Welcome to Podcast Circle. I am the creator and host, Alex Hitt. On each episode of Podcast Circle, we bring together a group of entrepreneurs and business owners to have roundtable discussions about our experiences building and running businesses today. While I host and moderate the conversation, the views and opinions expressed by each guest are their own. I do not endorse any products, services, or advice shared on the podcast unless explicitly stated. With that said, let's jump into our introduction so you get to know who has joined us today.
I'm Dr. Barrett Mathews of Media Boss Pro, www.5waystoPayingClients.com.
Laura Lorenz, Top Floor Mentoring, topfloormentoring.com.
Sandra Carr, Video Grows, videogrows.com.
Shirley Miller, Alivea4you.com.
Levy, Kumo Partners Chicago, kumopartners.com.
The topic of discussion today is, what is a business relationship deal breaker for you? Barrett, would you please start us off?
A deal breaker for me in business interaction is when someone is dishonest. One of the things that I have found is that when I'm talking to someone and they are either dishonest about who they are, what they do, or what they represent, and when I find out about it, it's hard for me to trust them at that point. And if I can't trust you, it's going to be hard for me to go further with business because I'm going to always question whether you're actually being honest with me. And if we're dealing with transactions, we're dealing with helping people, we're dealing with image, we're dealing with promotions, a lot of things where I need to be able to trust that person. And if I can't trust them, then we really don't, there's no relationship without trust. And I think that is basically the foundation of how we're going to do business. So dishonesty is the big deal breaker for me.
I totally agree about trust and lying or misrepresenting yourself. I had two others, though, that I thought of. One is when they treat my customers poorly. So if I've referred them out to a customer and they don't follow up with the customer or they misrepresent who they are with me, that would be a deal breaker. The other thing, and I've actually had this happen, is when they share confidential information with others about my clients. You should never share confidential information, and that to me is a huge deal breaker as well.
One of the things that I had to come to realize, having come from corporate America first, is that business relationships are necessary when you're a small business, and partnering is necessary when you're a small business. Having said that, what I found is not everyone is on the same wavelength with what partnering and building a relationship mean. So a deal breaker for me is if people don't acknowledge when you tell them this is something that must be kept between us. This is proprietary information. This is something that cannot be shared. So if I see that someone has stolen something, even if they stole it tangentially to another conversation, then I start to get suspicious, and then that deal is broken when I know I told one party something and another party is somehow privy to it.
Again, agreeing with everyone, trust is the main issue. If you don't have that trust, how can you go forward with that person knowing you can't trust them? Or even when they misrepresent your product, it's not right, and it's going to taint you for other people also. You've got to keep that trust. You've got to be honest.
Similar to what everyone else said about trust, but I use the word integrity. I love to work with people that have high integrity, high moral compass. And when I see for an iota of a second that doesn't exist, it's very hard for me to come back to that. And because two things happen. One, I don't think I will ever work with that person. And two, there is no way I can refer that person to anybody within my network of professionals, because at the end of the day, they're probably going to see the same thing I saw. And then what's going to happen, it's going to affect my credibility as a professional. You don't want somebody calling you going, why would you introduce me to that person? And if you have any doubt about anybody, especially being truthful, once I see that they're low on the being open and truthful, there's no way I can work with that person or refer them.
Yeah, we had some great answers there. A lot of you touched on trust being a really important factor, integrity, being forthright. But I want to ask, sometimes we make mistakes in our business. Sometimes we maybe misrepresent ourselves, or maybe we don't give the right impression, the first time we meet somebody. So how would you guys say if maybe somebody has lost trust for you in your business, or you lost trust for another business, how do you repair that How do you build that trust back up again after trust is lost?
I mean, it's a tough thing because I don't think most people aren't coming out going, hey, listen, I just realized from the time we spent together that you lie and I can't trust you. It's probably something you're going to keep inside and just in a different direction. It's not an overt, really, conversation. But again, it depends on what level. There are some people that I could probably have that conversation with going, you seem a little scattered, a little all over the place. I'm not sure what you're telling me is truthful. Depending on the relationship I have. Some are very deep, but usually my deep relationships, I don't run into those problems. It's the very surface ones. It's the new people that come into your life. Not anyone from age 7, of course, but in other groups, it's those people that come in that where the antlers go up, so to speak.
For me, it takes a really long time to build up trust. I will give you the benefit of the doubt once, but if there's any inkling after that, the ties are cut and you have to go a long way to earn the trust back. But I think it's doable.
I'm going to address this from the perspective of having made mistakes as a business owner. I painfully sometimes fall on my sword and I'll just raise my hand and say, you know what? I screwed up. I apologize. If there's any inkling of a reason, I'll say, here's what happened, but do give me an opportunity to fix or correct this so we can move forward. Usually that works, but we have to be willing to step up and own up when we make mistakes.
Yeah, there's a difference between making an excuse for a choice and a mistake. And I think a lot of times that we call things mistakes when they're not mistakes. You just got caught doing something wrong. I think when it comes to doing business, we can tell if it's a mistake a lot of times. And if it's a mistake, I can give someone an opportunity for a mistake. But if they chose to do something and they got caught and said, oh, I made a mistake. No, we can tell that you chose to misrepresent yourself, that you chose to tell a lie. And in that case, I have a hard time just forgiving and forgetting. I may be able to forgive you, but I don't know if I can give you more business.
Great point. Great point.
Yeah, it's something just to play on what Sandra said. Phenomenal point, by the way, because I think that being able to raise your hand, be it in business and life, and say, I made a mistake, I need help, any of those things. Now your stock just rose in my book. And I think being able to acknowledge a mistake and being open and honest about it, again, it goes to credibility. It's a negative, but the positive is you're open and honest about it. And I think anytime someone can raise their hand and say, I made a mistake, I'll be better, I think that's fantastic. And the other thing I was going to say, I guess I can't remember who it was. It might have been Laura who made the comment about kind of a second chance. I was the king of second chances for years. You could have called me Mr. Benefit of the Doubt because I gave it to everybody. And now what I started doing, when my gut says something's off, it's off. And I don't wait around. And I think if you wait around to quote unquote see the good in people, you will get burned every time.
To piggyback on that, that's my point, was that I have made a mistake. And I've gone to that person, hey, look, I'm sorry I did this. It was not intentionally. That does bring you back to that top of that level for that person and gives them that opportunity to say, okay, yes, I understand that. Because like I said, I've had it happen to me. And that person come back and say, hey, look, I'm sorry. I really did this. I did not intend to do this. How can we fix it? It makes all the difference in the world. And like Burt, I still am. I give everybody that benefit of that. I know that you're a good person. I want to see that.
A lot of the themes that I picked up on today were integrity, forthrightness, honesty. A reputation takes a lifetime to build and one interaction to ruin. And so we have to be as forthcoming and honest and have the highest integrity that we can in our business, because you've heard it here today, that's what people value in business partners. So thank you everyone for being on the podcast today. That's a wrap for this episode of Podcast Circle. Thank you to all of our guests for sharing their insights today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. Also, head over to my website, alexhitt.com, to find additional resources, upcoming online events, and to apply to be the next guest on Podcast Circle.